Hello everyone. Today I'm going to deliver to you the presentation regarding carbon tax and industrial competitiveness. This presentation is prepared for energy decision and policy midterm exam in SBM ITB for ENEBA class. The study regarding carbon tax has been conducted by a lot of people in the world. For this assignment, I found at least 15 Scopus Indexer journal that has discussed about the carbon tax implementation from other countries around the world. Those journals mainly focus about the impact of carbon tax implementation for respective countries, especially for macroeconomical impacts such as inflation, welfare, and others. Indonesia has a strong commitment towards global warming, along with 196 nations worldwide, where Indonesia has targeted the net zero emission in 2060. For almost 30 years, most of nations worldwide has shown their fighting spirits to prevent global warming. It was started back in 1997 where Kyoto Protocol was signed. The objective is to reduce the greenhouse gases by an average 5.2% below 1990 level from 2008 to 2012. In 2004, the ratification of Kyoto Protocol for Indonesia was signed through Law Number 17 2004. And in 2015, the Paris Agreement has already uh, conducted, and the objective is to prevent the global temperature rise up to 2 degrees Celsius. And this Paris Agreement has been ratified to use in Indonesia through Law Number 16 2016. And in this uh, period, Indonesia submit its first NDC that targeted the emission reduction target 26% unconditionally and 41% conditionally. In 2021, Indonesia updated its NDCs, where the target higher, which is 29% unconditionally and 41% conditionally. In 2022 through to 2023, Indonesia submit Enhanced NDC or ENDC, where the target got higher, where the emission reduction target is 31.89% unconditionally and 43.2% conditionally. The recent NDC was submitted by Indonesia was the second NDCs in 2024. There is no change regarding the emission target, but it was updated by methodology, the calculating methodology, and add more scope to reduce. For the strategic energy context, as shown in the table 1, we can see that there is an increase of energy usage in Indonesia since the COVID pandemic in 2020. And in the table 2, shown that the most of energy source comes from fossil fuel, which consists of 97%, and the new and renewable energy is only 3%. And if we divide the fossil fuel, we could see that most of the energy sources comes from coal, 84%, the crude oil, 6%, and the natural gas, 10%. Every year, Dewan Energi Nasional publish the Indonesia Energy Outlook, then forecasting energy usage and carbon dioxide emission based on two scenarios, as you can see on the left side of the slide, reference scenario and green scenario. For the reference scenario, the energy demand growth is about 6%, compared to the green scenario that only 4.7%, and the transportation growth in the red scenario is 5.7%, but in the green scenario it's only 2.6%. The fuel consumption increased 43%, but on the green scenario it's only 31%, and renewable growth in red scenario is 8.2%, but in the green scenario, the renewable growth is 9.4%. Then has published that the CO2 emission increase from 2010, it's only 421 million tons carbon dioxide equivalent, but in 2023 it was 752 million tons carbon dioxide equivalent, with average 4.6% increase per year. In 2034, the Dewan Energi Nasional predicted that the three most polluting sector in Indonesia is power generation, that might use the fossil fuel around 38% for reference scenario and 42% for green scenario. And for industrial sector contributes 33% for red scenario and 37% for green scenario. And for transportation sectors contribute 22% for red scenario and 17% for green scenario. The other two for household and commercial contributes less than 3% of emission production in 2034. This slide shows us the milestone that has been taken by the government. The carbon net zero emission in 2016. Back to 2016, it was 2015, the Paris Agreement was signed, and then 2016 the first NDC was submitted, and in 2021 the updated NDC, and 2022 the enhanced NDC, and the latest one in 2024 the second NDC. In the second NDC there are a few additional scope compared to the last ENDC, that consists of a new sector like maritime sector, and new definition of greenhouse gases by adding HFC, hydrofluorocarbon, and the time implementation and the reference. World Bank in 2019 estimate that 60% of all NDCs under Paris Agreement plan to use carbon pricing mechanism to meet their emission reduction goals. This mechanism consists of emission trading system or ETS, carbon credit, carbon taxes, and result-based climate finance. Indonesia currently trying to implement carbon pricing that consists of carbon tax and carbon trading. To implement carbon pricing, there are 5 categories that need to fulfill by the government. First, emission cap settings to establish the limits on emission based on the historical data and goals, and then MRV or measurement, review, and verification infrastructure to verify emission report through independent organization, and then carbon trading mechanism. The government should facilitate the transaction of emission quotas and offset, and then incentive and penalties, reward or penalties for entities based on their emission performance. And then the most important one was the guidance preparation, that the government should provide the instruction, a clear instruction and support for the carbon pricing implementation. Other than to achieve the net zero emission target in 2060, carbon tax implementation is hoped to increase the industrial global competitiveness to enter European market that apply carbon border adjustment mechanism. That means by reducing the CO2 emission, the products from domestic industries could enter the European low carbon market. But in the other hand, the carbon tax could also harm the poor households and the small industries, which means the carbon tax it will become could define as additional cost for their energy costs, and and it will make the inflation, which resulting the higher price for energy they could uh, use for their activities. Okay, next we go to the market failure and policy justification. As we know, in the competitive market, the supply and demand curve could be seen as shown in the graphic. The supply curve is slightly inelastic due to the price of the energy supplies that does not change significantly with the change of the quantity demanded. If we see from the graph, the intersection or the equilibrium between supply and demand was in the P0 price and the Q0 quantity, and the area between demand curve and the price line, it was called as consumer surplus or CS, and then the area between the P0 line and the supply curve, it's called the producer surplus. So the market welfare could be defined as the combination of consumer surplus and uh, producer surplus. But if we apply a treatment into the competitive market, such as the carbon tax, there will be a shift of the price, as we know that the carbon tax it could be defined as the additional price to the supply. So the price will be going up from P0 to P1 and resulting in the new point, the new intersection. So basically the previous equilibrium is in the green dot, but due to the increasing price, so the price going up and then the quantity demanded going down, shifting from Q0 to Q1. This phenomena make the consumer surplus reduce compared to the previous competitive market, and then there are the the change of the producer surplus. As you can see, there are area that is not convert into producer surplus, the triangle A and the triangle B. It called the deadweight loss. The deadweight loss means that the market inefficiencies that occur caused by the unmet supply demands in this graph. So if we define the market welfare is changed compared to the previous one, the market welfare is CS new customer surplus plus the new producer surplus, or the market welfare could also be defined as the all consumer surplus plus all producer surplus minus deadweight loss. So basically with the carbon tax was implemented to the competitive market, there will be a market inefficiency or a dead weight loss occur in this market. So the other problem that might occur due to implementation of carbon tax to the competitive market is energy poverty. As you can see here in the graph, the energy poverty area, the gray area and the A triangle here is previously belong to consumer surplus in the normal competitive market before the implementation of carbon tax. But after the implementation carbon tax, this gray area is converted into the producer surplus, and then the A triangle area and B triangle area it's become the dead weight loss or the unmet demand due to market inefficiency. The energy poverty means that in this area, for the low-income household of or low-income small industries, may they may could not afford the energy prices because uh, they only have a low expectation. That means that they only can afford the cheaper price of energy, and this energy poverty is it should be the government should be pay a big attention for this area because it will disrupt the macroeconomic, political, and social issue in Indonesia. Okay, the other problem that might be occur is the power market, but different with the previous competitive market, the power market could only occur in the monopoly market where the few or only one entities that control the supplies. The power market was happen by quantity withholding. If the suppliers or the producers withhold their quantity of supplies, it will make the price going up. As you can see in the graph, the previously supply there are equilibrium between demand and supply, as you can see in the green dot, where the price is P0 and the quantity is Q0. But through withhold, so when the producer hold their production and make the supply curve shift to the left from and resulting the new equilibrium, as you can see in the red dot, with higher price and lower quantity. So the consumer surplus previously consumer surplus is transferred into become to the producer surplus, as you can see in the yellow area. But this situation also producing the dead weight loss or the consumer surplus loss, as you can see in the purple triangle, and the producer surplus loss in the blue area. So in Indonesia, this problem might only occur in the power sector. As we know, the PLN is the single supplier for the electricity in Indonesia. Mostly 98% of power supply was supplied by the PLN. So without the government intervention, the PLN might conduct this withholding production and reducing the consumer surplus. This means also the total welfare of this situation is also reducing compared to without quantity withholding happen. Now we go to policy design and institutional analysis. As you can see in the slide, the government has actively creating the regulation in order to achieve the net zero emission target in 2060 and also complying the Paris Agreement statute. The base of the economic carbon in Indonesia is comes from the Presidential Regulation number 110 in 2025 regarding the carbon economic value and national greenhouse gas controlling. This law is and then translated into the technical ministry, such as as you can see in the above the regulation that has been released. The ESDM, Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, has published the regulation number 16 2022 about the carbon economic value conducting in a power plant. And then Ministry of Maritime and Investment, the number 5 2022 about the structure and guidance committee about the carbon economic value, and then Otoritas Jasa Keuangan, the regulation number 14 2023 about the carbon trading through carbon trade exchange, and then presidential regulation number 14 2024, and in 2023 September the Indonesia Carbon Exchange was officially released. And other than that, there are a lot of Ministry of Environmental and Forestry regulation that is the main institution that will do and verify measure the economic carbon emission in Indonesia. As you know that in Indonesia the focus of carbon emission and carbon reduction and also the carbon trading is focused in Minister of Environment and Forestry. Other than that, there are several regulation that in process is in the Kementerian Dalam Negeri and other. So carbon tax implementation in Indonesia was conducted through two mechanisms. First, cap and trade, and cap and tax. In cap and trade, entities that emit more emission than cap should buy the emission permit certificates or SIA from entities that emit under the cap, or buy emission reduction certificate SPA or carbon offset from IDX Carbon. But in the cap and tax, if the entity cannot buy the emission permit certificate or emission reduction certificate, if they emit above their cap entirely, then this remaining emission will be subjected to carbon tax. Yeah, the simplified mechanism is you can see in the left side of the slide. The carbon tax in Indonesia relatively low compared to other countries. Currently the tax for carbon in Indonesia is only 30 rupiah per kilogram carbon dioxide equivalent, or equal to only $2 per ton carbon dioxide equivalent. If we compare with the other countries, we can know that European Union the tax is very high. It's about $90 per ton carbon dioxide equivalent. In our neighboring country, Singapore, it is $25 per ton carbon equivalent, and they are still currently discussed to going up to $80 per ton carbon dioxide equivalent, and the other global average is $6 per ton carbon dioxide. In implementing carbon tax in Indonesia, there are 6 institutions that have the big role to ensure that the carbon tax is implemented in a good way. First, Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance responsible for tax design, revenue administration, and also budgeting. And then the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. This institution has role in manage greenhouse gas inventory, MRV standards, and also the national registry of the carbon tax. And other is Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. This institution should oversee the sectoral implementation in power generation and compliance. As we know that the biggest carbon emitters come under this ministry. Next is Financial Service Authority, or OJK, and IDX, Indonesia Trades Exchange. Their role is to enable carbon market infrastructure and formalize trading rules. Then Indonesia Bank act as a macro stabilization institutions and influencing green finance. And the last one is Bappenas, provides grand design thinking and monitoring for decarbonization planning. For these 6 institutions that currently take a role in the carbon tax implementation in Indonesia, the government should involve the Ministry of Industry to this role design. As we can know that other than the oil and gas sector and power sector under Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, industrial also emit the high carbon dioxide, and as we know that industrial is under the Ministry of Industry. So the Ministry of Industry should be involved in designing and controlling the carbon tax and carbon market implementation in Indonesia. So because the carbon tax implementation because of carbon tax implementation in Indonesia involving up to 6 institutions, there are a risk of the regulatory failure in the coordination across the institution. There are four risks that need to be addressed by the government. First, the weak incentive. After the industry pay a tax or fulfill their commitment to emission reduction, the government should give them a reward as the appreciation for them to achieve their emission reduction target. The appreciation might comes in the form of incentive or other tax reduction and etc. Without that, the industry may discourage to reduce or to comply to the regulation regarding carbon reduction. The second one is the MRV capacity. As we know, the measurement, review, and verification is conducted by the Ministry of Forest, Environmental and Forestry. But with the low capacity for MRV, it will make the inaccuracy of data and leads to the market collapse. The simple problem that might occur is the double counting or not or fails data. It will resulting the chaos in the market. And then the third one is policy distortion. The narrow application of the carbon tax in Indonesia, it will creates market distortions. As we see in this current trial phase, the carbon tax implementations is only for a little portion in the power sectors. It will make the distortion, which means the investors will try to avoid that sectors and move the other sectors that is not implied the carbon tax. And the last one is political sustainability. With all of the chaos, the political in Indonesia become unstable, and it will make the investors they don't want to invest their money to Indonesia market and make other problem like inflation and unemployment. Okay, next we go to macroeconomic and fiscal implication of carbon tax implementation. As we know, in Indonesia currently, the energy subsidy is the biggest burden for Indonesian budget or APBN. In 2022, the realization of subsidy is about 551 trillion rupiahs. It is the number is reduced in 2023 about 339 trillion rupiahs. But if these conditions continue, the subsidy will be rising to almost 900 trillion in 2029. And what will be happen if we apply the carbon tax emission or carbon tax to reduce the emission? If the industrial still continue emitting the carbon dioxide, the government will generate the revenue, and then the revenue could be used to reduce the budget deficit, or on the other hand, it could be used to subsidy to energy subsidy, and also it could be used to fund green energy initiative and the limit carbon limit carbon emission. But in the other hand, carbon tax is also act as the price increase for the power price. It will make the energy poverty, and it also will increase the dependency on the import of energy, or the increase of the subsidy. Okay, now we go to the potential revenue of the carbon tax. As previously mentioned by the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources in 2022, the carbon tax implementation is firstly targeting the electricity generation, specifically coal-fired power plants with a capacity above 100 megawatt. The tax implementation also used a capping system, the value of which will be determined by the Ministry of Environment. As we see in the table 1, from the ministry regulation, the coal power plant capacity, there are three power plant categories that targeted to be implemented carbon tax. First, coal-fired power plants with the capacity above 400 megawatts with the emission cap is 0.918 ton CO2 per megawatt hour. Next is the coal-fired power plant with capacity between 100 and 400 megawatt with the emission cap slightly higher. It's 1.0113 ton CO2 per megawatt hour. And then the last one is mine mouth coal-fired power plant with the capacity between 100 to 400 megawatt. The emission cap is 1.094 ton CO2 megawatt hours. And then we could calculate that the total capacity of the PLN based on BPS, Badan Pusat Statistik, for steam generator power plant, the capacity is 39,413 megawatt. So based on this data, we could calculate the carbon tax simulation. First, we calculate the cap calculation. The cap calculation is coal power plant capacity times the caps. First, in this case, we assume that the coal power plant is based on BPS data 39,000 megawatt times the cap for coal-fired power plant above 400 megawatt of 0.918. So the total emission cap is 36,181 ton carbon dioxide. And then we calculate the CO2 produced. It was calculated by the coal power plant times the carbon generation per megawatt. This source from CEA 2023. From the data means every megawatt power plant it will produce 1,027 ton carbon dioxide equivalent. Based on this data, 39,000 megawatt times 1,027. So the CO2 produced is 40,477 ton carbon dioxide equivalent. So the carbon tax is calculated as CO2 produced minus CO2 cap times rate. So the government revenue for this trial sectors is only 128.8 million rupiah. This relatively low potential revenue is will increase, uh, in line with the broader scope of the carbon tax implementation to other sectors and the increase of the carbon tax itself. Now we go to carbon tax implication to inflation. So Zhao in 2023 discussed that higher carbon tax raised consumer prices and slightly reduced GDP and jobs. So in this analysis, we use the supply and demand curve, uh, uh, where previously supply curve is S0 and the demand curve is D1. So previously, before the implementation of the carbon tax, the supply demand equilibrium is in the point A, where the price is P0 and the quantity is Q0. But after the implementation of the carbon tax, as we know that carbon tax is like an additional cost, additional value for the basic price. So it will make the supply curve shift to the left and resulting in the new equilibrium point in the point B, where the price rise to P1 and then the quantity demanded reduced to Q1. So it means that carbon tax will make the price more expensive for high carbon related product like coal, power, cement, steel, petrochemical, and etc. And with the higher product, the inflation will going up in Indonesia. Next, in this slide, I try to analyze the impact of carbon tax implementation to exchange rates. So, carbon tax can diminish foreign investors' confidence in investing in Indonesia power sector. That means the investor might withdraw their investment from energy industry and seek more profitable opportunities elsewhere, and they possibly withdraw their fund out of Indonesia. It will make a significant capital outflow and could weaken Indonesia exchange rates. So, when the more foreign investors withdraw their money or divest from Indonesia, they want to sell their money to buy another exchange rates, another currency, to buy another currency, and that means the demand of the national exchange rates or rupiah will shift from D0 to D1, and it will make the new equilibrium with the lower price and lower quantity demanded. That means that the carbon tax will that trigger the massive devastation in Indonesia will reducing the Indonesia exchange rates. If we talk about the energy import dependency, currently in Indonesia there are two main energy sources that was imported. First, the fuel, and then the LPG for a household. If we talk about the energy import, these two energy import will burden the Indonesia trade balance. That means the higher the import and the lower our trade balance becomes. So the implication of the carbon tax to energy import dependency at the first trial stage, there might be no significant impact to import. But if the decarbonization and uh, carbon tax carried out more massively in the bigger scope, the import number might be reduced. The program to reduce the import currently is the electrification, such as the converting through internal combustion engine vehicles to EVs vehicles and switching from LPG stove to induction stove. By implementing these electrification programs, the energy imports for LPG and fuel might be reduced. But if the carbon tax implement massively without the providing of energy source, new green energy source, it will increase the marginal cost of the electricity production, especially for coal-fired power plant. The rising electricity price will shift the supply curve to the left and then make the price become higher. And it will also discourage the people to move from ICE vehicle to EVs, and the people is reluctantly to convert from the LPG stoves to induction stove. So in this case, the government should pay attention, not only just implement the carbon tax solely, but also need to provide the greener energy source uh, to provide the energy needs of the community. Now we talk about the twin deficits in Indonesia. Twin deficits means the situations where the government face both budget deficits and current account deficits. Currently, in 2025 data, Indonesia is expected to have the budget deficit up to 695 trillion rupiahs, or 2.92% of GDP. It it was driven by the lower tax revenue and significant government spending, and also the subsidies. Fortunately, on the other hand, the Indonesian export is surplus, where the export is $282 billion and the import is $241 billion. These high exports are mainly driven by raw material export like iron, nickel, steel, and coal. And implementing limited carbon tax will likely have no significant impact to Indonesia twin deficits. However, a broader application could reduce export value and raise subsidies. Higher electricity costs increase production expense, lowering exports and curbing imports. Additionally, energy poverty might worsen, particularly for low-income groups that affected by rising electricity price. This situation could happen big if the government fail to provide the greener alternative energy to be used for the community. Carbon tax will also have implication to the unemployment in Indonesia. Zhou in 2023 defined that in his journal, higher carbon tax raise consumer prices and slightly reduce GDP and jobs. That means when the government implement the carbon tax but fail to provide the greener energy, it will make the industry discouraged to uh, discourage their investment in the current sector or the high carbon sector. As we know in Indonesia currently, this high carbon sector is used the biggest employee, such as mining, petrochemical industries, and others high employee density industries. With the lower growth or maybe an devastation from Indonesia, it will make the low jobs needed, and of course it will become to unemployment. So although the carbon tax encourage the NRE business growth, but in the same time it will discourage current high carbon intensity business growth, resulting in unemployment. The other is the trade balance. The higher power price due to carbon tax may cause the higher marginal cost of industries compared to import product price. In this situation, it will make the people in Indonesia tends to import their basic needs rather than buy their local product, and it will make the negative trade balance. In in implementing carbon tax in Indonesia, the government face a dilemma. The first dilemma is regarding subsidies versus fiscal sustainability. The subsidies it will stabilize the economy, influence politics and security in the short term. But the subsidy is also a burden for the national budget in the long run. And then, in the other hand, maintaining the fiscal sustainability is crucial for government success. And with the sustainability in the fiscal, the governments could ensure the proper investment to support the national growth. But in this situation, I prefer the government should pay attention to the subsidy first. The subsidy, although it will burden the national budget, but it will calming the crowd. That means when the governments give the subsidies for the need of the like a poor household or the small industries, they will also will enjoy the right as Indonesia citizen. Next is the coal phase out versus tariff increase. As we know that coal is the main energy source in Indonesia, where 42% of energy comes from coal. So the coal phase out immediately will lead to energy crisis and harm long-term economical growth. Instead, increasing the carbon tax is more suitable approach. So in this dilemma, the preferable action is by increasing the tariff. But the government should pay attention regarding the sectors that implemented the tariff increase. Next, the carbon tax versus the competitiveness. Carbon tax is a steps to achieve the net zero emission in 2060, but basically the economical impact of the carbon tax maybe have a minimum impact to the competitiveness of the industries. As we know that industrial will have the economical benefit if the industries become more competitive, like the government revenue from tax from the industry will increase, and then the employment will increase. Also, government spending for subsidy will also decrease if the industry is competitive. So in this dilemma, it choose the competitiveness rather than carbon tax. Next, between energy transition and energy security. Yes, energy transition is important to and also in line with our target to achieve net zero emission in 2060. But energy security is the more important one than energy transition. Energy security ensure that everybody in Indonesia receive the same right to enjoy the energy other to enjoy the energy. And then the energy security means that it is also energy security is also act as the foundation for the national economy to run. Next, we go to the policy recommendation. In this slide, I propose the 4 recommendations to enhance the policy in implementing carbon tax in Indonesia. First, the transparent tax schedule. That means the predictable schedules for increasing the carbon tax will be more preferable, especially for the industries, because they will have the time to prepare before the schedule to implement the carbon tax applied. Next, the strategic revenue recycling. That means that the government should pay attention for the revenue that received from the carbon tax. And in this occasion, I propose that the revenue should distribute into 3 streams. First, the direct household transfer and safety nets for poorest household and small industries. And then for green Indonesia energy transition. And third, reducing distortionary taxes or debt to cut tax. And the third one is to prevent carbon leakage. Carbon leakage means that if the Indonesia carbon tax is lower other than other countries, if the carbon tax implementation in Indonesia is lower than other countries, the other countries tends to produce their needs in Indonesia and then import it to their own market. That means that the emission produced is only focused in national domestic, while the project itself is enjoyed by the other countries. So it means that the government should align the regulation for carbon tax implementation with our neighboring countries or others countries worldwide, so to prevent the carbon leakage. And then last one is to establish the monitoring frameworks like MRV with the global standards and have an transparency report to handle this transparency, and also an independence agency or independence institution to handle this process. This slides informs about the interaction between institutions in Indonesia to implement the carbon tax. I propose that Indonesia government should create the steering committee, carbon pricing steering committee, that consists of 7 institutions. First, the carbon pricing steering committee. The objective is to set a policy sequence, resolve interinstitutional bottlenecks, approve annual work plan, and direct report to the presidents. In this interconnection of the institution, there are 7 institutions that will act as to ensure that carbon tax implementation is run very well. First, Ministry of Energy and Ministry of Industry as the technical ministries that ensure the business under the energy sector and industrial sectors comply with the carbon emission reduction regulation. And then the Indonesia Bank to monitor the inflation, liquidity, and green finance alignment. Ministry of Finance to design the fiscal terms, revenue recycling, tax rules, and budgetary and state treasury. Next, the Ministry of Forestry as the main objective to maintain the SRN Sistem Registry Nasional, and then MRV integrity, SPE surat pengurangan emisi gas rumah kaca issuance, and NDC monitoring. This institution is more focused in monitoring the carbon reduction implementation. Next is Bappenas to sequencing with the long-term planning, national long-term planning, transition pathway, KPIs for each institution. And then the last one is OJK and IDX Carbon. Their objective is to ensure the market rules, exchange licensings, trading surveillance, and disclosure and consumer protection. All of these institutions will act together, joining the carbon pricing steering committee to ensure that the system that has been regulated in national scope running very well without bottlenecking. Bottlenecking might come from the interaction between the institution, but by the establishing of steering committee, the bottlenecking will be reduced. So what I can conclude from this presentation is, first, carbon tax is one of the most effective ways to reduce greenhouse gases emission to achieve national net zero emission in 2060, and it has been adopted by other countries worldwide. Next, the government has been actively creating policies to implement the carbon market in Indonesia. In current trial phase, carbon tax may not have a significant impact to economy, including industrial competitiveness, but if it applies on a wider scale, there are impacts and benefits that need to be addressed by the governments. And that the benefits are discourage the high carbon emission usage, to improve industry's competitiveness, especially to enter global low carbon market especially, and then new revenue center for the country, as we know that revenue that government take from the carbon tax will also can be used for the government spending. On the other hand, there are risks that should be addressed, such as energy poverty. If there is no available energy source, as we know that carbon tax will act as an additional cost for energy. And then carbon tax will also may reduce the industrial competitiveness if the industries couldn't take advantage of the new low carbon market, and the carbon tax only act as a cost adder. And C, increase APBN, but national budget burden by increasing subsidies for the energy poverties actually, and then it may make carbon leakage. And the last one, the government should develop the policy based on 4 criteria as follows: the transparency, strategic revenue recycling, prevent carbon leakage, and establish reliable monitoring network. Okay, that's all the presentation that I can deliver to you. And thank you very much for your attention. Have a good day.